So the video footage is correct.
I wish I assaulted him. Now that is a real issue. I wish I did a real thing, proper. I regret not doing it. I should have done it so that I deal with real stuff. Me, I'm not scared. But uniform or no uniform, Afrikaner or no Afrikaner, white or pink, I deal with you decisively. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Julius Malema, once a fierce and outspoken critic of others' pasts, now finds himself under intense legal scrutiny. For years, he publicly ridiculed figures like Gayton McKenzie, questioning their credibility based on criminal histories and positioning himself as a fearless revolutionary leader. He spoke boldly about challenging authority, even suggesting forceful change if necessary, while projecting an image of unwavering strength and defiance. Today, that narrative faces a striking test. In a dramatic turn of events, Malema appears before the courts, confronting serious allegations of his own. The contrast between his past rhetoric and his current legal position has sparked widespread public debate, raising questions about accountability, leadership, and the consequences of political bravado. As the proceedings unfold, the nation watches closely, witnessing a moment that could redefine both his image and political future. Before we continue, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates as we follow this developing story.
Look at what just came out of this man's mouth. He's saying he wishes he actually assaulted someone. He regrets not doing it properly. Think about that for a second. A member of parliament is standing there saying, "I wish I had committed a real crime instead of whatever they're charging me with now." This is not normal behavior. This is someone who has lost touch with reality. He thinks because he has supporters who cheer for him at rallies, he can say anything and get away with it. And then he starts talking about Afrikaners and white or pink people, saying he will deal with them decisively. What does that even mean, white or pink? Is he now grading white people by their skin tone? This is the same man who claims to be fighting racism, but here he is making racial threats. He's saying he's not scared of uniforms, not scared of anyone.
With regard to the accused's personal circumstances, several key factors warrant consideration. The accused is the main financial provider for his family. Therefore, a custodial sentence would directly threaten the family's financial security. He is the father of 3 children aged 9, 9, and 7, and husband to his wife. As an actively involved parent with a strong family orientation, his absence would disrupt his children's and wife's emotional, social, and psychological well-being. It is important to highlight that the accused received a custodial sentence in 12 months without the option of a fine. He will be rendered ineligible to serve as a member of the National Assembly. This disqualification will persist for 5 years following the completion of the sentence, thereby restricting his ability to represent his constituency during this period. The accused enjoys notable support within the South African society, with many subscribing to his philosophy and expressing confidence in his leadership within key institutions such as the National Assembly. His removal from office would inevitably create a void for the communities he represents, potentially diminishing their voices and the hopes he has consistently championed on their behalf. Finally, the accused's active involvement in community initiatives would be interrupted, placing the continuity and sustainability of ongoing projects at risk to the detriment of the community. Considering the facts of this case and the personal circumstances of the accused, it is necessary to carefully assess whether any form of imprisonment would constitute the most appropriate or just outcome. Evaluation. The purpose of the evaluation is to assess the risk of recidivism and to identify key factors that may inform and guide sentencing decisions. The following are considered protective factors which substantially reduce the risk of reoffending. Strong social support. The accused learned the importance of family from a young age, continued to maintain close family relations, and relies on the support of his family when necessary.
You brought me wrongly here, and you know that. Either you want to build your career with my name, using my name, and destroy my reputation, and destroying the future of my children and my wife. You know very well that you brought me here wrongly. Look at all the 19 statements that you have led before this court. No one can associate me with any wrongdoing. I cannot regret having done nothing wrong. I possessed a toy. It requires no license. It requires nobody's permission for me to use it at any time. Well, if that was a requirement, I would have complied with the law. Like the person you brought here of the joke, who said, this was the best team ever, the most disciplined and highly cooperative.
Mr. Malema, may I request that we maintain the mutual respect we had for one another since the beginning of this trial up to now.
What do you mean by that?
Just a request that I'm having.
What do you mean by that? You brought me here for 6 years for no issue. And that is not disrespectful. It's robust, but it's not disrespectful. I'm being honest. You have put this court in this predicament because you could have taken a decision when you took over the case. When the first prosecutor left, you could have taken over the case and made a decision on your own independently and objectively. You refused to do that. It was you in the argument of 174 who said, had you known the facts you know now about Larry Mabunda, you would have charged him. That on its own should have told you there is something wrong here. And as an objective prosecutor, declined to proceed with something that has got loopholes. I'm not being disrespectful, Your Worship. I'm being honest.
And here we see Malema playing the victim card. And this is where it gets really pathetic. He tells the prosecutor, "You brought me here wrongly. You just want to build your career using my name. You want to destroy my reputation and destroy the future of my children and my wife." Listen to how he's talking now. Where's the revolutionary who fears nothing? Where's the fighter who promised to take on the system? Now he's crying about his children and his wife like he's some ordinary family man who got caught up in something by mistake. This is the same Julius Malema who has destroyed other people's reputations with his words, who has called people criminals and sellouts without any evidence, who has used his platform to attack anyone who disagrees with him. But now that he's the one facing consequences, suddenly we must feel sorry for him because of his family? The hypocrisy is unbelievable. Then he says he possessed a toy gun that doesn't need a license. But Julius, if it was just a toy, why were you earlier saying you wish you had committed real assault? Why were you threatening to deal with people decisively? You can't have it both ways. Either you were playing with toys, or you were making real threats. And when the prosecutor asks him to maintain mutual respect, Malema gets aggressive again. What do you mean by that? You brought me here for 6 years for no issue. My brother, if there was no issue, you wouldn't be in court. The fact that you're standing trial means there is an issue that needs to be examined. Let me tell you something about what we're seeing here. This is not just about one court case or one politician getting into trouble. This is about the end of a certain type of politics in South Africa. Julius Malema built his whole career on being loud, being aggressive, making big promises, and never having to deliver on any of them. He told people he would give them land, he would give them jobs, he would transform the economy, he would remove the government.
Why don't you just fire towards their direction if they are standing there?
It's none of your business. It's my business where I fire from. It's my event. I can even fire under the stage if you so wish. I decide how I'm going to perform it. It's none of your business. You have no business with how EFF conducts its business. As long as it's lawful and it doesn't violate any law, where do you come in? Unganap.
Mr. Malema, the only logical explanation as to why you did that is because you knew that those firearms were indeed real firearms that you've used there.
An incompetent, incoherent, inferior prosecution is what you are trying to prove here. An abuse of power. You will not win with me. This act can be performed anywhere.
Now we're seeing Malema completely lose his temper, and this is where things get really interesting. The prosecutor asks why he didn't fire in a different direction if people were standing there, and Malema explodes. He says, "It's none of your business. It's my event. I can fire wherever I want, even under the stage if I want to." This is the response of someone who doesn't understand why they're in court. Julius, you are literally on trial because of what you did at your event. How is it none of the court's business? The whole point of this trial is to examine what you did. But in Malema's mind, because it was his EFF event, he can do whatever he wants, and nobody should question him. Then, when the prosecutor suggests that maybe he acted that way because he knew the firearms were real, Malema starts throwing insults. He calls the prosecution incompetent, incoherent, inferior. He says they're abusing their power and they will not win with him. These are not legal arguments, my friends. These are the words of someone who is panicking.
Because you are referring to there was no violence. There was no violence.
Your Worship, that is a consideration, and if there were, if you look at it all together, if there were injuries, it would then
Yes.
aggravate the
Yes.
circumstances, and it would be aggravating circumstances that would inform a more serious sanction.
You see, that is maybe why I have a difficulty to follow you here, because you are saying it was a brief period of time, it was a celebratory shooting, and there was no violence, and you could also not find a similar case of this nature. Now, so what?
The similar case of that nature, Your Worship, is really to indicate in a situation like that what would have the sentence been.
Now we know there is not. So does it take away any of the charges because this is the
No, it
first?
does not at all, Your Worship.
So I don't understand this.
It does not take away the context and the charges.
Because I'm concerned that you are also telling this court that your client is very concerned that he has created the perception that one may be reckless with firearms and that he regrets.
That's correct,
So
Your Worship.
we are all on the same page. And as you have explained in length that, yes, every person may plead guilty. Are not guilty. That is a given. And remorse is not a requirement. So we are on the same page there. But you say he regrets the perception. But in the same instance, it's fine because it was a celebratory shooting. So what is it that is being said here? What is the perception that we must take from this?
So, Your Worship, it was a celebratory incident, but the expected outcome is that it created the wrong impression, which is regrettable and was not the intent.
The impression is that this was a planned shooting or firing at the birthday event. So what impression is it that was supposed to be perceived then? What is it being? What is the perception?
So, Your Worship, linked to the other charges, it still remains that those things were not considered, and then it created the impression because the necessary caution was not applied, leading to the charges of the endangering and the recklessness.
Okay, let me leave that. I have only two aspects left. A few in fact, because if I had it in before the time, it may have been a different story. The other issue, not an issue, but if you can explain, I think if we go in the circle of a radius of 5 kilometers on each side of the court building, we are going to find about 4, 5, 6 soup kitchens. So, and this soup kitchen is specifically to the area Mr. Malema is coming from.
Correct, Your Worship.
So that is, what value must the court attach to that? Because I've read it's from donations.
Part of involvement of the accused, Your Worship.
So it will continue.
It will continue, most likely, yes.
So there's nothing special about the soup kitchen,
Do you-
except that one may be very thankful that people are being served a meal. That is outstanding.
Yes, Your Worship, and it was mentioned as part of the considerations in terms of the risk of the offence.
You also said the accused has a desire to right a wrong that is driven, that he must right a wrong. Did I understand you correctly?
Your Worship, it explains where behaviour is coming from. Is that if I perceive something to be wrong, naturally some people would be inclined to try and correct it, others would not.
Please, if you
depending
can.
on the personality profile of the person.
Did I summarize what you said correctly? That the accused has a desire to set a wrong right.
To set right, wrong, yes.
Yes.
Wrong, right, yes.
Yes. So in this case now, who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong?
So Your Worship, what I meant, and that's why I said also perceived wrong. So if the accused looks at something and he sees it as a wrong, his natural response would be to try and correct it.
So if there's an act that says you may not do it,
Yes.
then it's okay. If he decides you may because it's celebratory, then it's fine.
No, Your Worship. That is not what the intention of that is.
No, not the act. I'm going on what your evidence is saying.
In terms of explaining behaviour, so that is usually what would drive him when he takes action.
Okay. Now the very last sentence you said, second last one. You were asked by counsel now specifically, the fact that Mr. Malema is leader of a political party is irrelevant, and you said it is irrelevant during sentence. Did I hear you correctly?
My understanding of the question was whether it is
Malema can't do any of that. His whole brand is built on being perfect, being right about everything, being morally superior to everyone else. He can't admit he made a mistake because that would destroy his image. He can't show humility because his supporters expect him to be strong and defiant. He can't apologize because apologizing means accepting that he was wrong. And Malema is never wrong in his own mind. So he's stuck in this trap where he has to keep fighting, keep denying, keep attacking, even when it's making him look worse and worse. And the more desperate he gets, the more he reveals what he really is under all that revolutionary talk. He's just another politician who doesn't want to face consequences for his actions. Now people are asking, is this a trap by AfriForum and his other enemies? The answer is yes and no. Yes, AfriForum has been after Malema for a long time. They don't like his racial rhetoric. They don't like his threats about land. They think he's dangerous, and they want to use the law to stop him. So they've been watching him, documenting everything he says and does, looking for opportunities to bring charges against him. In that sense, yes, they set a trap. But here's the thing about traps. You have to step into them for them to work. Nobody forced Malema to brandish what looked like real guns at a political rally. Nobody forced him to make threats about dealing with people decisively based on their race. Nobody forced him to create situations that could be seen as incitement to violence. He chose to do all those things. So even if AfriForum was watching and waiting for him to mess up, he's the one who actually messed up. He can't blame your enemies for prosecuting you when you hand them the evidence on a silver plate. Does Malema have a case to answer? Absolutely yes. Based on what we've seen in these videos alone, there are serious questions about his judgment and his actions. His own words are being used against him. When you say you wish you had committed assault, when you threaten to deal with people based on their race, when you create situations where people might reasonably fear violence, that's not nothing. That's potentially criminal behavior. The toy gun defense is very weak